on 9/11 by World Trade Center, and the Lower Manhattan residents are priorities as well. And I think in the last year in particular, the mayor has put forth a very large city public commitment to expand what services do exist to make sure that no New Yorker who was affected by 9/11 is without care.
So what kind of symptoms are presented by people, and is it possible that at this relatively late date after the event that people are walking in today expressing that they are suffering from problems that they didn't recognize in 2001, in 2003, and 2004?
It's very possible that people are walking in today with new symptoms or symptoms that they're recognizing as World Trade Center related today. First and foremost among them, it's common for persons with mental health symptoms, and that was the overarching largest health impact from 9/11. People with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety related to 9/11, substance abuse that related to 9/11, avoidance of issues is a common symptom. So people walking in to address their mental health symptoms today is probably a common phenomenon. In terms of respiratory health, another major area that we're concerned about, most treating clinicians at the World Trade Centers of Excellence, at Bellevue Hospital, at the fire department, at Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York City, most physicians say the majority of people who develop respiratory symptoms develop them within the first year. That doesn't mean that some people are developing late onset symptoms. That can happen. But the majority of their patients develop symptoms relatively early on.
My guest is Dr. Lorna Thorpe. She's with the New York City Health Department's World Trade Center Registry, and you don't actually treat, you track the patients.
That's right. That's right. I run a scientific division at the health department. We monitor and track health and illness in New York City residents. The World Trade Center Health Registry is one of the projects in our division. It's very large. We are monitoring, communicating with more than 71,000 people who were heavily exposed to the events of 9/11, either as a worker or as a resident or as somebody who was in a building, or children in schools in Lower Manhattan. And we have been monitoring their health since the registry was established. Our commitment is to continue monitoring their health for up to and beyond 20 years. That's the goal, to look at short-term effects, medium-term effects, long-term effects, and link people to care that they need.
What are the long-term implications of the registry? God forbid we have another catastrophic event, whether man-made or natural. What are we learning that will help prepare us for another major catastrophe?
There's a number of things. I'll give you one example. In September of this year, we published findings regarding the development of post-traumatic stress disorder among people who responded to workers and volunteers who responded to 9/11. In that study, we found elevated levels of post-traumatic stress disorder. 1 in 8 workers developed PTSD in the 2 to 3 years after 9/11. That's high. Groups that developed the highest levels of PTSD were workers that didn't have prior training in emergency response to disasters, that weren't used to this type of work, that were working outside of their normal sphere of responsibilities.
Yeah, there were a lot of even emergency workers who came in from other areas to assist, who might have handled a couple of automobile crashes or something like that, but nobody actually was in their sphere, no matter how seasoned a police officer, firefighter, paramedic you were, or a steel worker, or whoever came in to assist, ever was confronted with what occurred here. I mean, I've been a reporter since 1969.
I don't think so. I think if we keep radio in private hands, it will not. I think we're in a media revolution. We have all kinds of choices. But if you give the government the power to regulate political content and political speech, yes, we are going down that road. And you mentioned Imus. This is a concrete example of what could happen if the government were in charge, although if forcing him off the air was done through private action and private pressure from a Hillary front group called Media Matters, which of course complained that he was guilty of so-called hate speech. This is the template we're going to see increasingly used against conservatives in the media. For example, focusing on
Cliff. They deserve what they got because they capitulated to special interest groups, to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who called New York City Hymietown, to the Reverend Al Sharpton, who we all know what happened with the Tawana Brawley case. I mean, neither of those two gentlemen have clean hands when it comes to words coming out of their mouth into the public domain toward ethnic or religious groups or people of color other than their own. It's their own damn fault for capitulating. I say let the marketplace determine. And if, because of what Imus said, people turn off that station in such numbers that the revenues from the advertising are adversely affected, then the marketplace has spoken. But if people continue to listen to Imus, I don't particularly find him all that compelling personally, but if people continue to listen to Imus, then let him stay on the air.
That's fine in theory, except for the fact in that case that the pressure worked and the corporations fired him. In a strange, bizarre sense, the marketplace did work. But that's the way it's going to work.
It wasn't the marketplace. Cliff, I'll argue that. For the cows.
I have to remind you that those same people, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, they're the same people behind the return of the Fairness Doctrine. And so they want to do with government power what they were able to accomplish against Imus through private pressure.
Well, that wasn't a marketplace bearing. I would argue there was a special interest group bearing, and the people who hired him, both on MSNBC and on radio, capitulated to that pressure, and shame on them for doing so. They're just ruining their own industry by doing that, in my opinion. Again, I don't agree with what he said at all, but I don't believe that some narrowly focused organization, special interest group, should be determining what happens in the marketplace.
But that's exactly why the Fairness Doctrine is coming back, because of these special interests and private groups who want to adopt the power of government to accomplish what previously they could only do through protests and pressure. What happened to Imus is a template for what will happen using government power when the Fairness Doctrine is put back into place by the FCC.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you that, in my opinion, this is a very dangerous course that this country may be taking if they reinstitute the Fairness Doctrine. I do not believe, and I don't believe anyone in this audience, I don't think, challenge me on this if you disagree with this. I can't imagine that anybody would, but okay, maybe they do. I do not believe that any government should be controlling what the media have to say. We need to have, as frustrated as we get with these pundits sometimes, myself included, I know many of you get frustrated with me, as frustrated as we get by the news reporting, let's speak out against that openly if we disagree with what somebody says.